Hey, what's up guys, it's Konobandit here with Rising Duelist, and today we're talking about another deck that's coming out in the Spirit Warriors set. We're not talking about Shadow 6, I don't want to talk about Shadow 6, but we're going to be talking about Weather Painters, which is a deck that I'm actually really excited to see, which could actually be considered the opposite of the Magical Musketeers. Shout out to Jay over there, check out his video about that. But so first off, we're talking about like the Weather Painters are a deck that they're centered around continuous spell and trap cards that give their monsters additional effects. And what the monsters do is that when they use their effects, they can banish themselves and then come back after I'm pretty sure it's the next standby phase, and that's all the Weather Painters with their effects. And they do have one link monster. It's called, I think, Rainbow Weather Painter RCL, which is actually a really good card. It's a link 3, but that one gains effects with how many Weather Painters you have linked to it, and then you could use those effects to you can use those the link monster actually can negate things, and by banishing those Weather Painters, and then those Weather Painters can come back. And I'll say they all bitches also, except for one of them. There's an old man, but they all bitches. Anyways, so I'm going to talk about a little like spicy things you could do, or like what cards you could run in this deck. Obviously, you want to run the Weather Painters. There's one Weather Painter, Lambla, which is actually, I would say it's probably one of the best regular ones that can actually protect your spell and trap cards from being targeted and destroyed, which you really need to keep those up, because if someone just makes a Tornado Dragon, or if you're like, or any other card that could just get rid of back row, you want those protected. You don't want those to be destroyed, because you need your Weather Paintings up on the field. Also, they're all level 3s except for one of them. One of them is level 6. So obviously you could run generic Xyz that are 3. You can do that. You run any combination of what you want, because you have a lot of freedom in the extra deck. It's basically a link deck, so you're gonna want to make RCL the main one, or you can make any other link monsters you want if you're able to spam the field, which is where I'm gonna go with the first one I'm talking about. You could run Valhalla in this deck, which lets you obviously get another summon with your Weather Painters, just to get all those Weather Painters out of the field really fast, make your link monsters, and then just keep continuing your plays. It's just fantastic for more of those plays to continue that, and I would recommend that if I was playing this deck, which I will. Another interesting tech that we're going to talk about is you could run Kaijus in this deck, and by the effect of Snowy Weather Painting, you could actually bounce that monster back into your opponent's hand, which if you give them a Kaiju, you bounce that Kaiju back in your hand, which is actually really fun. Like, it's a little bit on the Yosenju side right there, like using the Kaiju and then bringing it back, which is really exciting. Other than that, this is a great deck to run Floodgates in, to stop your opponent from doing anything. You could run Anti-Spell Fragrance in this to just hinder your opponent, or you could run things like Skill Drain if you really wanted to. And moving on from that, these continuous spells and traps, because all of their Weather Painters are continuous spell and traps, also the paintings. You could also run Masterpiece in this deck, which is actually just adds insult to injury, if you ask me. Like, any deck that can run Masterpiece, like, without having to just put a bunch of like random cards in it just to run that, is just fantastic. So that's another reason, like another card you can run Masterpiece in this deck. All right, moving on from that, you could run Magic Planner in this deck, which is actually really fantastic to let you get extra cards in your hand and just continue to use your plays, because you're using all continuous spells and traps, and being able to just draw is just obviously a good engine in general. Another thing that I've been seeing online a lot of is people have been using Emergency Teleport in this deck just to be able to get Ghost Ogre out, which is actually interesting, because you can make level 6 Synchros if you wanted to in this deck. And because Ghost Ogre is also level 3, you can make level 3 Xyz or rank 3 Xyz if you wanted to also, which is just adds a little flavor to the deck, adding a little thing. But honestly, the Weather Painters are very straightforward. They're generic. You want to run like at least one of every Weather Painter, and multiples of a lot of them. You want to run all the paintings that you would deem as valuable, because a lot of them aren't as good as the other ones. But it's very good, I would say, as a stun deck. Weather Painters as a whole, their link monster is absolutely fantastic, and this is why I say they're kind of like the opposite of Magical Musketeers, is because Magical Musketeers are wanting to like get things out fast, but the Weather Painters are very slow. Their pace is much slower than that, and that's why I really like it. Looking forward to being able to make that deck and being able to play Jay if he makes his Magical Musketeers and see how that works out. But honestly, there's really not much else that I want to talk about for that deck. But if you guys have any ideas, like fun little tech ideas for the deck, just let me know, and I'll see what I think about it, and I'll answer you guys in the comment section. Thanks.